We're back. Hey, if you've got a question for us, we'd love to hear from you. It's called Ask Annex. Go to our website, annexwealth.com. Look for the Ask tab. Fred Coleman's a CFP and a wealth manager. He joins us. Hey.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah, we got Matt Morzy, Director of Research at Annex Wealth Management, also a CFP. Welcome to you.
Hey, Danny.
Question number one on Ask Annex. My neighbor was trying to explain stretch IRAs. It didn't work. Can you?
The stretch IRA, this changed with the Secure Act. So the stretch IRA, essentially, you can't do it anymore. But what used to happen is when you passed away and you had an IRA, you would pass it down to the beneficiary, and they would essentially be able to stretch that over their life expectancy. So let's say they're 30 years old and their life expectancy is 85. Well, they have to take those RMDs over 65 years. Well, that's changed now, and now with the inherited IRA, the government requires you to take it over 10 years. By the end of year 10, the IRA has to be depleted. So in a way, it forces you to pay those taxes every year. And you can imagine, in the past, those little chunks, you wouldn't have to pay as much. Now, there are, advanced ways around that. But for most people, over 10 years, you do have to liquidate that IRA.
We got to bring those back. I would think most regular people would like that.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to be forced to pay taxes, even though it's an inheritance. And it also, thinking about the stretch, you can make that IRA last generations, because a lot of times you're not going to use it, pass it down to the next person. And those things can really, in their words, stretch.
Yeah, well, that was probably the point why they took it away. Yeah, okay. Question 2 on Ask Annex. Please settle an argument. Friend says maxing out a 401k is a bad idea if I want to retire early, since I'll be under 59 and a half and won't be able to take withdrawals until then. I think maxing out a vehicle like a 401k is a good idea.
I think this is why, Annex is so great at what we do with our financial planning team, our wealth managers as well. I know, Fred, this is something you've touched on in previous Ask Annex as well. But when I think about it from, kind of my experience here, is that really just having different options is really what you want more than anything else. Having money in a qualified account like a traditional IRA or 401k, awesome idea. Getting that tax break right away, saving for that and having those taxes deferred. But having some money in a Roth bucket, and then if you're going to be retiring early, having money in a non-qualified account that you can pull out without penalties. You obviously are paying taxes on the gains and dividends and all that kind of stuff along the way, but you have complete flexibility of being able to take that money out. And then lastly, having an HSA, is going to be super powerful as well, because you're going to have healthcare expenses that you're going to have to hit. And having money that you could pull out of that grew tax-free is going to be really impactful. So from my point of view, it's tax diversification or tax bucket diversification with different portfolios. But Fred, what do you think?
One of the biggest parts of a financial plan, you accumulate, you save all this money, early on, I just want you to save as much as possible. So if you can max out that 401k, I haven't really heard anyone, regret doing that. But as you get closer and you're thinking about retirement, that's when distribution strategy comes into play. So what we do is we sit down with clients and we look at all your different accounts. We look at the different tax buckets and we determine when's the best time to pull out of each account. We know with IRAs, it's 59 and a half. Well, maybe it's better to leave it in a 401k because you have the rule of 55. Or maybe you're retiring even earlier, so, we need to access those brokerage accounts. All that's a part of timing and financial planning, and building that bridge just to make sure that you can cover all your expenses without paying any additional tax.
Last question on Ask Annex. A relative is giving our family $10,000 to invest for our 14-year-old's post-high school education. It seems 14 might be too late to start a 529.
With 529s, the thing you have to also look at is you still get that tax deduction. You still get tax-free growth. And with 529s, there's a lot more flexibility now than there were in the past. So if they have other siblings, maybe you're not just investing for this 14-year-old, but if you get that money in there, the beneficiary can be changed. You can pass it down. And then also the new rule with the Roth IRA, you can roll those funds into a Roth. So 529s have a ton of flexibility. I don't think 14 is too late.
Yeah, and I think from a risk perspective, you're probably going to want to be a little bit more conservative than you normally would be. Generally 4 years before they start college, you're going to have to start pulling some of that money out at that point in time. You generally don't want to take too much risk. You want to take some because you want to be able to get some growth there, but I'd be a little bit more cautious on that side of things. And maybe the only other thing I would add is if there's a possibility that college is not going to be, where you're going to be spending that money on, it's geared towards that based off of the question, but if there's a chance where it might not be, a taxable brokerage accounts can be really powerful too. Have a little bit more control on those funds. Maybe it might need to be used for something else at some point in time. You just have a little bit of flexibility there. But when you think about it from an age standpoint, 4 years, it's not quick. So there is time for that to grow and have some ability to be impactful for that college career.
Matt Morzy, Director of Research, CFP at Annex Wealth Management. Thanks.
Thank you.
Fred Coleman, CFP and a Wealth Manager. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.